Yo, what's up guys? We've got another tutorial and we're working with another portrait photographer. So he has a really nice vintage warm tone flat image to his photos. So we'll get straight into showing you his Instagram. So as you can see, there's a very little amount of contrast in the image, so those blacks aren't too harsh. And then when you use that with a nice fade and the tone curves, you get that really nice flat style. And what can also really add to a really nice fade is to add in a lot of grain, because grain will add another layer to your image. You will have the same texture throughout the entire image, and that creates another layer for your image. And so the main points is going to be that fade, adding that warmth to the shadows. As you can see in this image, for example, lots of warmth in the shadows there. Same with this image. So that's going to be another point of focus. And yeah, he's using a very wide range of focal lengths to achieve his images, all the way from 24 maybe to up to 70 sometimes. So he also has his presets, guys. I'll be linking them down in the description, and you can come over here. If you click here, it's going to take you over to his presets. So he's got an amazing style, guys. If you guys like his work, definitely go over there and purchase his presets. They look really high quality. So if we go back, he's also got his tutorials on his YouTube channel, so I'll also be linking that down in the description. So let's get into Lightroom and see if we can create something faded and warm and vintage like this. Here we have his image from his Instagram all edited, and then our raw unedited one over here. So first thing we're going to do is take out a lot of this contrast and then add in a real strong fade. So let's drop the contrast. Let's up the warmth. As you can see, we're looking very blue. So this image is actually a JPEG, but JPEGs will hold up just fine if you don't push them too far. So we can't really push this image, but we should be able to get the same result as it's not a major edit. So let's keep going. Let's drop the whites, get that flat look a little more. Shadows can come down. Blacks. Okay, so our lighting looks kind of the same. You can like see almost the same amount of detail in those shadows and in those blacks. The hill over here, it's kind of the same, but we want a really strong fade to this image. We want like almost a layer to look like it's on top of the image. So let's do that with the curves here. Now I'll just do it real quickly and then I'll explain. Okay, so that's the curves done, and you might think I've gone a bit too harsh, but I want to lift the blacks now to about there. And then, yeah, as you can see, we've just put a nice fade into the blacks there. So you can't quite see it at the moment, but when we add in the colors and the grain, it'll be a bit more obvious. So if we just go before and after, you can see we've warmed up the image a bit, taken out a bit of that contrast. It's just up. There. Whites can come down a bit, just a bit flatter by taking down those whites. And then I might just brighten the entire image a bit. Okay. Okay, so we want to take down the vibrance of the image. We are going for this vintagey look, so we want to take away the pop to the image. So that's kind of desaturating the midtones and the brighter colors, and then results in that. So here's our before and after so far again. So as you can see, we've just put on that layer of fade. It almost looks like something's on top of the image. And we might as well put the grain in now because it's such a big effect to this image. So if we go about there, and we definitely want it quite a bit larger. And then the roughness can come up a bit more too. And we will go with that. And that kind of adds to, I think it kind of adds to the fade as well. Just by having the same amount of grain on her or the road as the sky, it sort of adds the illusion that there's another layer on top of the image, sort of giving a bit more of a flatter look to the image, if that makes any sense. So it looks like there's a layer right over top because you've got the same texture in the sky as on your skin. So it kind of looks like you're looking through a piece of paper or something that's adding in so much grain, creating a flatter looking image. Okay, let's do some split toning. So we've pretty much got natural tones in this, but there's some main colors going throughout the image. So in the sky I can see there's a bit more purple back there, and then in the shadows it's definitely a reddy orange. So what I want to do is we'll start off with split toning, and I'll quickly put in a bit of warmth in there. And then in the sky, we'll just add in that nice purple touch. And purple or blue, mainly purple, quite often gives, because it's close to red, it sort of gives that vintagey vibe. Okay, so if I just turn that on and off, you can see it warmed up a bit, especially in the shadows. Now you might think that's not enough, we need way more in the shadows, and then you'd be like, okay, well now there's not enough, it's too orange, it needs to be more red. Slide it across, but to me that doesn't look quite right. There's so much red in the road, and we want the road to stay a normal color. It's almost a green sort of. So split toning isn't really working for us in this situation. So what I think we have to do is, there's definitely some warmth in there. So we've got a bit of warmth in the shadows, but what I'm going to do is do it in the curves. And I'm just going to use the red curves, and I'll just try to explain why. So the shadows is just adding, it's almost adding red. If we try it here, it's adding red into almost half the image, or almost most of the image, and we only want it in the darker areas such as the blacks and a little bit of the shadows. We don't want it affecting the entire road all the way out here. So in the curves, we're going to put it in the blacks, so that's going to be about up to here. and we're not going to add it all the way up here, which is what split toning would do. So let's lift up the black point a bit. Okay, so I'm finished with the curves, well, this curve here, and you might ask, why did I put a point at the shadows? And that's because if I don't, by doing this, it slightly moves the rest of the curve. So these two, well, this point especially, is just an anchor point, so we keep the reds about there. And most likely he's done a little bit of a curve in each of these, but I think, and then would have given a favor to the reds and the shadows, or the blacks, but we'll just do it with just the red curve, and I think it works pretty well for this image anyway. So if I just reset this curve, you can sort of see what we did. So now we only have red in the dark shadows or the blacks. So again, here's our before the red curve. If you just keep an eye on there and the darker areas, add it back in, you can see we've controlled the warmth in the darker areas without affecting that road that split toning was kind of ruining. So again, see it just adds so much color to the entire image. We only want to affect the dark areas. Okay, moving on to our next thing, maybe HSL. So say skin tones or the oranges, you can see we just want them to pop a bit more. Let's bring that up. And we have very much natural tones to a lot of this, so we don't have to do all that much. So just to get a bit more richer oranges, let's drop the luminance, so that's the brightness of the color. And then to create a bit of a pop to the image, so we've got this nice layer over top, but sometimes it just looks a little too flat. But if you add brightness to say the yellows, kind of pops through the layer a bit, just the brighter areas. So that can look quite nice sometimes. Let's go with that. And what else? I think do we look a little too purple in the sky? Maybe a little too purple in the sky. Shift the blue to a little more of a teal. Let's roll that. Let's mess with sharpening, so just a normal amount of sharpening. And then we'll mask. So hold Option. You can see where it's sharpening. So generally you only want the thick lines to be sharpened, and you want to keep the rest quite smooth. Okay. And then might remove just a little bit of this vignette. I probably, if I had the raw image, it would let me do profile calibration, but it's a JPEG. It doesn't have that information in it. So I might just very slightly bump up to get rid of so much vignetting. Okay, I think we're good. So we just need to make aspects of this image stand out, and it really helps, especially in a really flat looking image, because otherwise you just sort of have too much, you sort of lose your subject in it as well. So we're going to make our subject pop out by just doing brushes over top. So I've already placed them. Here's one on her face. So if I just tick this box now, I'll be able to make my adjustments for you guys to see. Okay, so I'll just bring up the exposure, bring out her face. We'll add clarity just to make that a bit more crisp and stand out. And then sharpness about there, clarity there. Okay, and then we've got another brush. I'll just show you where it's affecting pretty much the entire subject, just real roughly. And then we want to create a 3D effect to our subject. So generally that's adding in contrast, but I think clarity will do that a bit as well. So let's do that. Adds in a tiny bit of contrast, but definitely makes our subject pop. So you want to like do dodging and burning sometimes. I don't think this image requires it, but do sharpening, clarity, and sometimes contrast will work well to make it subject pop, but I think we are looking good. And I might just leave it there, guys. So yeah, that's how you get the flat look. And if you're working with this curve here, remember, so we lifted the black point, that's gonna affect your black point here. So that's like lifting it up here for that fade, and that there. So if you're lifting this up, you're kind of like lifting this one up as well. So remember, that's gonna affect your contrast and your fade, but you're just obviously adding in color like this as well. So yeah, and we also added that grain, which created a bit more of a flat look because you're adding in texture at the same rate or the same over the entire image. So that's also creating a layer and a flatness to your image. And yeah, one more thing I want to show you, if we just go across to his edited image all the way, this one, so you can see this is his histogram. You can see it's very far away from the white point, and we've got our blacks far away from the black point. And if we go back to our one, you can see that it's very similar. So that's the flatness, far away from the whites, far away from the blacks, and creating the flat look. So yeah, I'll leave it there, guys. I'll be linking all of his stuff down in the description because he deserves way more followers for the type of content he's putting out. So go give him a follow down there, and I'll be linking up all of his stuff, so his presets, everything. Go give him a follow, and yeah, check out my stuff if you're liking these tutorials. I've created a ton of value in all those packs, so if you're liking these tutorials, check them out. I'm sure you'll like them. Awesome feedback so far. And yeah, comment down below who you guys want to see, and then I'll reach out to them on Instagram, ask them to send in a photo and do a tutorial on them. And yeah, and just one more thing, he very, very likely is doing an S-curve in each of these channels, and is just giving a favor to the reds in the shadows. So yeah, I don't think he's just using just the red curve and then up in the shadows for the reds there. So yeah, but I think we got close. We got away with just doing the red curve there. And yeah, I'll just leave it there, guys. If you're interested in video and LUTs and color grading, check the description. I've got videos on that. And yeah, catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.